Back when Overwatch was at its peak, not everyone could afford to drop $40 on a hero shooter. A lot of companies tried to hop onto the train. But there was one title that actually succeeded, and it was called Paladins. It was free, it could run on pretty much any PC, and because of that, a lot of people, including me, jumped in expecting nothing more than a free Overwatch clone. Instead, we found a game that actually had its own identity. It wasn't perfect, not even close, but there was something about Paladins that kept people coming back, which makes what happened to it even more frustrating. One of the biggest things that made Paladins stand out was its approach to the hero shooter formula. Instead of just picking a champion and calling it a day, you had the item shop and a loadout system. Now, I don't think items were ever the deciding factor in who won or lost the match. Good players were still going to outperform the bad ones, but at least it gave you options. They let you adapt to the enemy team, and that little bit of flexibility made every match feel different. Then there were champions themselves. Sure, there were obvious similarities to Overwatch's roster, but characters like Androxus, Cassie, Bomb King, and so many others had completely different playstyles. Androxus had one of the smoothest movement kits in any hero shooter. Cassie rewarded mechanical skill without feeling like a traditional sniper, and Bomb King, well, there still isn't any character quite like Bomb King. Even when Paladins took inspiration from somewhere else, it always managed to make its champions feel unique. Another thing I think Paladins absolutely nailed was its cosmetics. Nowadays, in most games, a skin is just a new model. Maybe it has a few extra effects if you are lucky. Paladins went way beyond that. The higher tier skins had completely new voice packs, unique personalities, custom visual effects, and even different background musics. It genuinely felt like you were playing a different version of the champion rather than just wearing a different outfit. It was one of those details that gave the game so much personality. The game also had a balanced competitive scene. But unlike a lot of modern competitive shooters, it never felt impossible to get into. There was always room for casual players, and if you wanted to climb ranks, you could do that too. It struck a really nice balance there. And back then, the game just had a lot more stuff. There were extra game modes to mess around with. There was a play of the game at the end of every match. Little features that weren't essential but made the game feel complete. Then Hi-Rez started taking things away. Play of the game disappeared, game modes disappeared, and instead of building on what people already loved, the updates started feeling smaller and smaller. This is where I think Hi-Rez completely fumbled Paladins. The gameplay wasn't broken, the core game was already good. What Paladins needed was a polish. Better servers, bug fixes, performance improvements, maybe even an engine overhaul. Instead, we mostly got more skins, more characters, and that was it. Now don't get me wrong, games do need cosmetics to make money. I'm not against that at all. But when it feels like the storefront is getting more attention than the actual game, players notice. And eventually, they stop coming back. Eventually, Hi-Rez shifted its focus towards Smite 2, and honestly, I don't blame them for waiting to invest in one of their biggest franchises. The problem is that Paladins never got the same level of investment. And looking at where Smite 2 is today, it hasn't exactly exploded either. It really makes me wonder what would have happened if those same resources had gone into rebuilding Paladins instead. Because here's the thing people often forget. Despite all the bugs, despite the servers, despite Hi-Rez's management, Paladins just didn't survive alongside Overwatch. It outlasted the original Overwatch. That's not something a bad game does. It happened because the foundation was genuinely solid. Unfortunately, while other studios refined the hero shooter formula, Hi-Rez spent years chasing the next big thing instead of polishing the gold mine they already had. And that's why Paladins slowly faded away. But honestly, I don't think it's still over. The player numbers are nowhere near what they used to be. But the community is still there. The game doesn't need to reinvent itself. It just needs the investment it should have gotten years ago. A proper overhaul, modern servers, better optimization, a renewed focus on quality. Because underneath all the missed opportunities, it is still one of the most unique hero shooters I have ever played. Paladins deserve better, and I still think there is a chance.